All right, so just at a little parking lot here. Different video that I started before this one. Maybe I'll upload it, but I was talking about how I was watching videos on some newer people struggling with taking off from a stop. So I thought I'd pull off somewhere, give some pointers. Ideally you wouldn't have to travel to do this. Hopefully your neighborhood's got like 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, not heavily trafficked. That way you can do it without having to worry about other motorists. So yeah, all throttles will have a millimeter or so of free play in it. That way when you're off the throttle, the throttle plates are closed or whatever, it switches to the idle circuit to just slow you down. You do want that free play, that way it's not holding them open and that sending power, that kind of pushes on you, affects your braking and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, we'll turn the bike on. It looks like I need to clean this thing. Dry and dusty here in Arizona. But anyway, the first few things you'll want to do when you got the bike started, I've been riding for a little bit, so we're warmed up. And you'll want to just flip the throttle a little bit to see when the pickup actually happens and it takes it off that little bit of free play it has. Because you don't, when you're taking off from a light, unless you're looking to do something drag racy sort of thing, you don't want to give it a big handful when you're letting the clutch out. I'll let somebody that does that sort of thing maybe make a video on more of a performance launch, I guess is a good word for that. But anyway, one of the exercises you'll want to do is you'll want to put it in gear. You'll want to open up the throttle just a little bit, start easing out the clutch, and then as soon as the bike starts to pull ahead, pull the clutch back in. You're just trying to get a feel for where that engagement point is. You do that a few times, and no hand on the throttle here. If I kept letting the clutch out, we'd kill the bike. That. So I suspect that's what some people are doing, is they're not feeding the throttle in, or they're letting the clutch out too fast. We'll dump the clutch and we killed it. I think that's what a lot of people are doing. And you're in gear, you can put the clutch in and it'll start. You don't have to put it in neutral. But yeah, so you let it grab a little bit, just feeling where the clutch is. And then yeah, when I was a noob, I didn't know what I was doing either, so I was killing it. And it's been too many years now, but I don't remember if it was somebody I actually went to high school with or a brother of somebody I went to high school with, but he was watching me flounder around killing it, and he was talking about, rev it up to like 2,500 and then, let the clutch out. And that worked. It wasn't the smoothest thing, but it certainly got me started. But yeah, you'll want to get a little gas, ease the clutch out, and then as the RPM drop, because you're engaging the clutch that grabs the gear, you saw the engine start to bog down a little bit. So then you just give a little more, a little more throttle. And then usually by the time I'm 7-8 miles an hour, my feet are on the pegs. And then as you come to a stop, you pull the clutch in so you don't kill it when you're braking. And as you get practice with this, it depends on the bike, the power and torque it has, kind of determines how easy it is. I've been on some bigger engine bikes that have enough bottom end torque that you really don't have to give it much throttle at all. And then once you get better, even with something like this that has minimal power, especially at 2000 RPM, 1800 RPM, you know, you won't have to give it a whole lot of gas. And then once you get better at this, you can pretty much take off from a stop, you know, right off of idle speed. So we're idling, I'm going to feed the clutch out, touch a throttle, and we're moving. But yeah, like I said, I'd recommend, you know, someplace with minimal traffic, maybe the street in front of your house if the speed limit's slow. And then you just got to get a feel for, you know, let the clutch out. It pulls the bike forward. You know, pull the clutch in. You just want to feel for where that engagement is. You know, how far away from the handlebar that happens. And then you just give it a hair of throttle, let the clutch out. Clutch is out. So it's not too difficult, just takes practice. You know, the rare people nowadays that know how to drive manual transmission cars and stuff, they might have a little bit of an advantage because they know about those engagement points and friction zones. But instead of using a foot clutch, you got a hand clutch. Instead of shifting with your right hand, you're shifting with your left hand. You know, so the controls layout is obviously different on a bike than a car. But yeah, we'll do one more little start here and then I'll stop and continue my little cruise, and we'll try and get this uploaded. But yeah, ease the clutch out, touch a throttle, pick your feet up. I suppose too, while we're doing this, we can do some shifting. Talk about that a bit. So you've got gear ratios, and as you go up in the gears, the gear ratio spacing gets tighter. So the shift from first to second is usually the biggest gap. Not only just having neutral in there, and I'm shifting at a low speed, you know, more for cruising and comfort rather than performance. And you know, smoothness. You know, maybe another time I'll do more of a high performance thing on that. But yeah, at lower speeds, there's less of a drop in RPM, so you know, you don't have to let off the throttle quite as much as you would, you know, at higher speeds. You know, had I wound first gear out to 45 or 50 miles an hour, whatever first gear is good for on this, you know, I would have had to have backed out of the throttle more. That way the RPM can drop when I engage second, and it's a smoother shift. And then you get back into the gas. You know, I guess if you're going that fast in first gear, you're getting back into it pretty hard because you're, you know, looking for maximum performance. And then, but yeah, usually what you'll want to do, and I only have the one GoPro, so we're not going to have footage, but I'll usually put my foot underneath the gear shifter, and I'll be putting a little bit of pressure on it. You don't want to shift when turning, but I got a little pressure on it, and then just like that, third gear, smooth. I pulled the clutch in, barely backed out of the throttle, and it just snicks into the next gear. You know, there was no bobbing. Let's go somewhere on the street here so we can go through the gears just a little bit. Again, not very fast, just like a cruise comfort. So first to second, there's a bigger drop. And then, yeah, if you're looking for smoothness and comfort, you know, the slower the speed, there's less of an RPM drop. You know, so there's probably very little like bobbing and nose diving and stuff. And it's kind of the same way when we're going down the gears. You know, the slower the speed, the less throttle you have to get, because you want to raise the RPM to match the next lower gear. Granted, none of this applies to you, that any of you that have newer bikes that have the quick shifter. I haven't experienced a bike with a quick shifter, so I can't really say anything other than what I've read. Most of them sound like they're good once you get to second gear and above. I don't know if it's having neutral in between first and second, the bigger gap that makes things a little funkier, but it's kind of, you know, one of the brand specific. Some of them work best when you're on it, and others, you know, kind of like having a automated manual where you're just towing the lever and it lets the throttle for you, or as needed if you're downshifting, and does all the clutch work for you. I don't know, 30 plus years of riding, I think that would take a little getting used to. But yeah, we'll turn right at this next light here, and you know, it's kind of the same thing. I'm looking ahead, traffic is stopped, cross traffic is going, looks like there's people turning, so I'm anticipating coming to a full stop here. So that's going to affect my downshifting strategy. So we'll roll off the throttle, put the turn signal on, you know, quick little blip of the throttle, step down, and the last few gears, since I'm coming to a stop, I just pull in the clutch and just keep the clutch pulled in and downshift into first. So ease the throttle out, let the clutch, or ease the throttle, let the clutch out. And it's, you know, a lot of it, as you get more miles under your belt, you'll get a feel for things, the sound. You don't want to be looking down, you want to be looking ahead where you're going. You know, traffic, animals, junk in the road, you know, potholes, stuff like that. You know, so you're pretty much doing things by like sound and feel. Problem. And then in a different video I mentioned it, I don't like to be next to people. Even if they have the blind monitoring system, you know, you're so small, they might check the mirrors and not think there's anything there. So I'll either stay back a little bit, or once I get next to them, I'll roll it on just a little bit to get next to them. And we'll turn down this next street here. Turn signal. I'm more of a front brake person. Downshift smoothly, third gear. You want maintenance throttle when you're turning. It puts some tension in the chain, which kind of supports the front suspension so it can track smoothly. You know, at lower speeds, you know, like what I was doing there, it's not critical. But if you're messing around, it can put too much, you know, pressure on that tiny contact catch that the front tire has, which is, you know, cause the front to wash out, low side. And the bike just feels better and balanced when, you know, you don't have to be accelerating, but you want to have that drive to maintain the speed. And yeah, it's really nice here. Growing up in Wisconsin, not used to seeing mountains and stuff. So it's pretty. I think those are the Santan Mountains. There's some hiking paths and stuff that you can go on. But yeah, anyway, slowing down, little flip, the throttle, downshift, and you're kind of doing all those in one smooth motion. And even though I wasn't really getting on it, you can see the difference in quality of smoothness and shifting at higher speeds. You know, the front end had a little bit of a bob to it. Set your speed, maintenance throttle. Downshift, off the brake, throttle. Stay on the throttle. But yeah, it just feels so much more better balanced when you've got that throttle, whether you're accelerating slightly or just maintaining your speed. It tracks better. Alright. So car there. Anyway, we'll end this video shortly. Hopefully some of the tips on taking off from a stop sign or a light help people get more comfortable with that. You know, again, practice. I mean, riding, there's lots of shifting involved, so you will get much better with your clutch and throttle control. Anyway, I hope everybody has a good Sunday, and we'll call an end to this video. GoPro, stop recording.